My God, it's full of stars.
Throwing your bone, baby. Throwing the bone weapon. And it was a good week. We had another graduate of boot camp, which is always awesome. Love graduating boot. I love when people graduate boot camp. It reinvigorates my faith in humanity. And this is going to be a culmination of three different topics, which aren't really related, but they're topics that I had alluded to before, and now I've gotten them fully fleshed out with some really good, some new stuff I found, some juicy morsels, some juicy breadcrumbs, and also I want to mention before I even start that the repetition of doubling, mirroring, halving, and palindromes. This is just hammered into our heads over and over again. We're making pairs, we're making triplets, we're doubling, we're halving, we are mirroring over and over and over and over. We're mirroring, and of course we have twins, but that's one of the things I wanted to let people know in this video, because I haven't really mentioned it in the last few videos, but this is all the language that we're using, just keeps using this over and over again. And we're going to look at the Apollo 15 mission, and we're going to look at I did a collage of all the Apollo landing maps, all the alchemical landing maps. I did a single picture collage of it, and I'm going to show that. And I think that's going to explain a lot of things to a lot of people, because you get to see all the clues in one spot. So let's just watch this first part here.
2 hours after touchdown, Dave Scott stood up in Falcon's upper hatch to survey their landing area.
Oh boy, what a view. I can see Pluton and Icarus.
So this is Apollo 15. He sees Pluton and
Good
Icarus.
evening. I'm sorry not to be able to be with you tonight to receive this great honor of the D.W. Griffith Award. But I'm in London making Eyes Wide Shut with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. And just about this time, I'm probably in the car on the way to the studio, which, as it happens, reminds me of a conversation I had with Steven Spielberg about what was the most difficult and challenging thing about directing a film. And I believe Steven summed it up about as profoundly as you can. He thought the most difficult and challenging thing about directing a film was getting out of the car.
Okay, this is Kubrick's movie, The Killing. This is Tim Carey in his handmade Morgan car with a wooden frame. And he shoots the racehorse, Red Lightning. He gets flat tire when he runs up the horseshoe. And then he gets shot getting out of the vehicle.
Nicky was dead at 4:24.
Was getting out of the car. I'm sure you all know the feeling.
Yes, we do.
But at the same time, anyone who has ever been privileged to direct a film also knows that although it can be like trying to write War and Peace in a bumper car in an amusement park, when you finally get it right, there are not many joys in life that can equal the feeling. I think there's an intriguing irony in naming the Lifetime Achievement Award after D.W. Griffith, because his career was both an inspiration and a cautionary tale.
Kubrick flew too high.
His best films will always rank among the most important films ever made, and some of them made him a great deal of money. He was instrumental in transforming movies from a Nickelodeon novelty to an art form, and he originated and formalized much of the syntax of movie making, now taken for granted.
Much like Kubrick does a lot of the
He became an international
puzzle
celebrity, and his patronage included many of the world's leading artists and statesmen of the time.
Archetypes.
But Griffith was always ready to take tremendous risks in his films and in his business affairs. He was always ready to fly too high.
2 hours after touchdown, Dave Scott stood up in Falcon's upper hatch to survey their landing area.
Oh boy, what a view. I can see Pluton and Icarus.
Yeah, Icarus.
And in the end, the wings of fortune proved for him, like those of Icarus, to be made of nothing more substantial than wax and feathers. And like Icarus, when he flew too close to the sun, they melted. And like Icarus...
Okay, what I've done here is I've taken all of the hand-drawn, not all of them, clearly not all of them, but a lot of the Apollo hand-drawn landing maps. So these would have been the landing maps that were done during Kubrick's tutelage. And I've noticed that they've replaced a lot of these maps with new digital ones. But we're going to go with the handmade stuff because we have like the Apollo handmade sweater and everything that's handmade, the hand paintings and the handmade rugs and yada, yada, yada. So anything that's handmade, we want to take a look at. So I took all the Apollo landing map. These are the areas they landed in. So I'm not just taking areas on the moon. I'm taking areas that the Apollo missions landed at and the original hand-drawn maps from the missions themselves. And we're taking a look at this. And this is where I talk about the alchemy with the crater names. You know, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, Dr. Floyd is invited to go to the IAC, which is the International Astronomical, or IAU, International Astronomical Union. This is the governing board that names these craters on different planets and moons and yada, yada, yada. So the IAU is intrinsically linked right into his puzzle language because he's using the actual craters themselves as clues, which is genius because a lot of the people, the early astronomers, their names are on the moon. So he selects, he lands right near Copernicus crater. So this is the Copernican model. And so let's go through some of these. Obviously, some of these are so obvious it's ridiculous, but we have the dome crater, the plane. So you live on a plane and there's a dome over it. And then we have sharp crater. So Jack has the sharp axe, Wendy has the sharp knife, Danny is a sharp boy. So you got sharp and dull. They're polar opposites. You got sharp and flat. They're polar opposites in music. Remember, Apollo is a musician, so you have a sharp note and a flat note. And so this fits right in with all work and no play. You know, if we have dull, we have sharp. They're polar opposites. We're always looking for polar opposites. We have Descartes. Descartes is the man that comes up with Cartesian geometry, length, width, and height. We don't need any special spherical geometry to describe the place we live in. It has length, width, and height. It's flat. Here's a clue to the Lewis Carroll doublets and triplets. It's an alchemical language developed by Lewis Carroll. Lewis Carroll is born on 127. 127 is the date of the Apollo 1 fire. So Lewis Carroll is, we have the bunnies in our puzzle, so we're being clued in to follow the white rabbit down the rabbit hole. Let's zoom this in a little bit here. I'll do one more. So here we have Icarus crater. So Icarus is the son of Daedalus. So why is this important? Well, Icarus and Daedalus are father and son, so that's pretty weird. And then we have Daedalus as the actual man that designs the labyrinth for King Minos. So even though we're given the Icarus myth with this clue, it also is tied into the same family that's involved in the Minotaur myth, where Theseus slays the Minotaur because he has the magic thread. Well, it turns out the princess actually gets the magic thread from Daedalus, which would be Icarus' father. So Icarus is so genius, and of course, he flew too high. His father warned him not to fly high, so he disobeyed his father, and he got carried away, and he flew too high, and his wings were only made of wax and feathers. So Icarus plummets to his death against his father's warning. So this is Kubrick's allegorical story. Kubrick is Icarus. He flew too close to Apollo, and his wax and feathers melted on March 7th, 1999. So we're going to go over this later in the puzzle. You're going to see the tie-in. So we have dome, Icarus, chain, and link. So we have the chain smoking clues that we're looking for people that are chain smoking. And we have the jewelry, the jewelry clues with the Tiffany cufflink and the Longines chronoscope and the gold room and the horse named Silver and the Pink Panther diamond. So we're giving all the constituent shiny parts of jewelry. So you can have a chain and jewelry, and we're using them to chain link them together. So we're making pairs, we're making triplets, we're connecting these things. And then we have a misty, so we had doublet crater. Here's doublet crater. This is a different mission here. And then we have misty doublet. So this is another clue into the Lewis Carroll doublets and triplets. And dome crater. And of course we have Rio. Now Rio is a river. And in this case it's the Rio Grande. Because remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So we have the Millennium Falcon and the 1,000-yard stare and yada, yada, yada. I've gone over this before. So Kid Rio is the Rio Grande. So rivers are a category in the puzzle. And I don't have them all yet, and I don't have a cohesive connection to them yet, but I know they're in there. And, one of the most obvious ones is the Columbia. It's Columbia Pictures, District of Columbia. Columbia was the first U.S. ship to circumnavigate the globe. Columbia Pictures, Columbia Records. I'm forgetting one. Anyway, so Columbia Columbia is the Apollo 11 Columbia and the Eagle. The Columbia was the CSM, the Eagle was the Lamb that landed for 2 under par. So that's this little tiny sliver of the Apollo 15 map is loaded with these clues. So Kid Rio is Marlon Brando and One Eye Jacks. It's a river. It's the Rio Grande. And so let's go down. So we have the North Complex, Uttermost West, the plain. You live on the plain. We have Shakespeare crater. So Kubrick is using Shakespeare throughout his puzzle. And so Shakespeare, some of the most famous quotes from Shakespeare are, "We live on a stage." So Shakespeare knew that we didn't live on a globe. And and who was Shakespeare really? There are rumors it was really Francis Bacon. There are rumors it was more than one person. So Shakespeare is alchemical. And so in the NASA missions, we have the Aurora capsule. So Aurora is the goddess of the dawn. So this is the awakening. And so he's using Shakespearean clues in his missions. He's using Shakespearean clues in his puzzle language. And here's another example of Shakespeare. So we have Horatio Crater. In Dr. Strangelove, they get the call on the CRM 114 that they need to activate Attack Plan R. So he says, "Oh yeah, Attack Plan R for Romeo." And then later in the movie, they say Attack Plan R for Robert. So they're giving you Robert and Romeo. So Robert is Robert Kennedy in the Bobbies category, and Romeo we're going again to the Shakespearean clues. And I'm not a Shakespearean expert, but Horatio. There's a few very famous Horatio quotes, and the one that I seem to think fits. And granted, I'm crazy as a March hare. But is the one where he says, "There are more things in this world than are written about in your good book, dear Horatio." So he's telling us that there's a lot more going on in the world than you're going to find in books. And of course, we have the surveyor craft. So there's a surveyor 1, 2, and 3. There was a bunch of these things, and these were sent autonomously to land. This is another ridiculous thing. These things in 1960, I don't know what it was, 68. They're sending these surveyor craft, and they're landing on the moon on their own, and it's a joke. And he selects the name surveyor because a lot of the flat earthers out there are actually professional surveyors, because if you do surveying for a living for a long enough period of time, you start going, wait a second, when am I going to measure the curve? We're at 40 miles, I see none. So the surveyor thing is repeated. Of course, these surveyor craft are all located right where they eventually land. So when they land, I forget which mission is, they land within like 500 feet of the surveyor craft on the moon. So this is what we were expected to believe. And we have the Dr. Kimball in 2001: A Space Odyssey. We see Dr. Kimball in stasis. So we have Kimball crater. We have Kimball is Dr. Kimball, Harrison Ford, in The Fugitive, looking for the one-armed man. So it connects perfectly. We have a connection to Harrison Ford, like the Mustang, like the Lincoln, like the Mercury. We have a connection into Harrison Ford was a carpenter before he became an actor. We have a connection into Dr. Kimball. We have a connection into one-armed man. So Kubrick's puzzle is sort of like playing the game Clue, and it'll be Professor Plum in the Colorado lounge with the wrench. I mean, when you find out what all these categories are, you realize how bizarre they really are. So here's Kimball crater. It's a connection to Dr. Kimball. It's a connection to The Fugitive movie and Harrison Ford. It's a connection to the one-armed man. So we're connecting into Harrison Ford already. And so Dr. Kimball is murdered by Hal. The life support system is turned off. So we have the Taurus Mountains. And some of these are, by the time I blow them up big enough to read, you can't even read them. So Kubrick had selected the fonts for the Apollo 15 map to be ridiculously small. And let me give you an example. This is the Apollo 15 map. You can see how small this writing is. And it's also a white background with a very thin black letter. So when you take this font and you start zooming in and zooming out, there are certain zooms and zoom-ins in, and you can't even read it because the pixels become like a checkerboard. So, Kubrick was pretty smart to do this, because in the 60s and 70s, nobody had a computer to do this with. So I don't even know how you would get these photos. You couldn't call NASA and say, I need to see all the landing maps. They're not going to give them to you. So until the internet became a viable thing and people started scanning them in and posting them, nobody knew this crap. So here's another triplet crater. So this is Lewis Carroll again, Lewis Carroll triplets. So Billie Jean King is a triplet because there's a category of willies, billies. A billy is a goat. So you can have a goat, a sheep, a billy, and a willie is your penis. Gene is a category. You have Eugene Kranch, Eugene Cernan, Eugene Roddenberry, Norma Eugene Baker, who's Marilyn Monroe. So there's a category of Gene. Oh, and you have, of course, Singing in the Rain, Gene Kelly, king of the musicals. So we're using the cards and these genes to make a category of genes. We have a category of Billies and kids, and Billy the Kid, and Billy Bibbit, Billy Shatner, Willie Shatner. So then you come to her last name. So it's Billy, which is a category. Eugenes and Jeans is a category. Gene Tooney, Gene Krantz, who gets the handmade red, white, and blue vest from his wife every mission. And then her last name is King. So a king can be a card game. A king can be a chess game. And you can also king, I think they call it kinging when you have checkers, when you go all the way across the king me. So, triplets are a clue that you're going to find some of the people in the puzzle, their actual names form triplets. And Billie Jean King isn't an anomaly. She's just one of them. And then also people whose names form doublets. So you have the Misty doublet and the triplet. Horatio is there's more things in this world, dear Horatio, than are written about in your good book. So there's a lot of stuff that, the stuff we've been told were lies. The stuff we weren't told is extensive. So the first way to approach researching anything is the first assumption is I know nothing. If you go into researching stuff and you're like, well, I know pretty much all of it already, I'll just flesh out the last little bit, you're not doing research. And so then we have, here's another one that's very difficult to read. Poseidonus. Poseidonus is King Neptune. They're synonyms. So Woody Strode has Neptune's trident, right here, in the movie Spartacus, and partially directed by Stanley Kubrick. So Poseidonus and Neptune are once again Greek gods. So, and we're playing Roman ping pong. And we have the trident. It's a triplet. It's a trident. It has 3 spires on it. And then we have Cochise crater. Cochise was the last of the Apaches fighting. And he finally surrenders, and he ends up doing like carnival shows at some point. It just becomes ridiculous. And he's interviewed when he's a very old man, and he says that he regrets ever surrendering. And if he had to do it over again, he would have fought to the last man. So this is the kind of person he's including in this puzzle. He's telling you that, listen, don't back down, because this is a fight for your own life. And so we have the Taurus crater. We have the bull. Taurus is a constellation. It's a zodiac. So, I mean, they land in the Taurus Latro, So he's giving you the bull, the Taurus, the bullfighter, the matador, Gary Lockwood, the bull rider. And then you have the Minotaur, which is half man, half bull. And of course, the repetition of the single bullseye. On the AE map, it has a single bullseye, and the UN map has a single bullseye, and Danny's dartboard has a single bullseye, and you get the One-Eyed Jacks movie, and yada, yada, yada. Here's Colombo. It's very hard to read again, but it's Colombo crater. And I believe I don't even know. I didn't even look it up, but it's Colombo crater. It's probably named after Christopher Colombo, because his name was not Columbus, it was Colombo. Actually, it was Cristobal Colombo. And he was a murdering psychopath. He liked to chop the Indians in half with his axes and stuff to see if they were sharp. So, Colombo. So why Colombo? Well, when we find the category of lands, we have Peter Falk, and then we add lands on it. So it's another area that's very close to the South Pole. And the English have had a lot of interest in the Falklands and conflict there. So then we have a clue to marriages and wedding dates. And in Full Metal Jacket, you have going to a wedding. So in the making of footage, Jack Nicholson says, why don't you make a little rice with that? So these are clues that we're going to be, and so far I have not covered a lot of these wedding dates because I'm trying to get the core of the puzzle down before I start adding in extraneous details. But one of the dates is Shelley Duvall gets married on 7/7. She's born on 7/7. She dates Ringo, born on 7/7. So it's a 7/7 repeating date pattern. And so she's one of the marriages you're looking for. There's also other ones, James Cameron, you're going to want to look for, but I'm not going to go into this now. And also it has 2. This is a doublet right here, diamond ring, because diamonds is a category. You Shine On You Crazy diamond, and the Pink Panther diamond, and the Heart of the Sea diamond, and it's a multifaceted puzzle, and it's a stone, like Oliver Stone and Philip Stone and James Mason and Johnny Clay and the blue diamond or blue marble and the jade rabbit. It's a stone. So it's a clue into different movies. It's a clue into stones. It's a clue into music. It's a multifaceted puzzle. It's measured in carats. And then you have rings. So Saturn has a ring. The Bell video telephone rings. The Gus Grissom's Liberty Bell capsule. So we're looking, where he's giving us clues to things that ring. And I've got obviously a telephone rings. The Saturn has rings. So this is a doublet clue, diamond ring. Then you have the Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's a uni, mono, lone, one, the first, Lonely Hearts Club Band. And this is a clue into the drum skin, where it says 1-1, I actually die. So Paul McCartney died on 9/11. And then we have clues into the Ranger, the Lone Ranger. Wendy calls the Ranger Station. In Full Metal Jacket, Matthew Modine walks up to Cowboy and he goes, hey, what's going on, Lone Ranger? So he's repeating, and then you had the Lone Ranger theme in Clockwork Orange. You know, when Alex is having his encounter with the two girls, they played the Lone Ranger theme. And his horse is silver. So, you know, and of course, these are all clues into Bird's book, Alone. You know, because he's a lone nut. And Dionysus. Sometimes it's Demeter, sometimes it's Dionysus in the Corona myth with the Minotaur. So there isn't one ranger clue. There's nine ranger, at least 9 ranger clues. So these were another craft. They sent the ranger crafts to the moon and the surveyor crafts to the moon to look at the topography. Let's go a little to the right here. This one's clever. Emery crater. So we have a category of stones and diamonds. You know, we just saw the diamond one, the diamond ring one. So we have stones and diamonds and all that. But how do we connect stones and diamonds to cloth? How can you connect a stone to cloth? Like we connected a wood to a stone by the Netherlands petrified wood rock. But how are we going to connect a stone to a cloth? It doesn't. I mean, it seems impossible to do that, but it isn't, because emery cloth is made of ground up stone, a very hard stone, and it's used for sanding metals. It's very, very good abrasive for metals, emery cloth. So we're connecting a stone to a cloth with emery crater. So this is one other flat Earth clue, Ptolemy. We have Buck Turgidson, right? We have Private Pile, and we have Mare. So we have a horse, we have a massive pile of horse Turgidson. He's giving you clues to turds, like Neil Armstrong says after his famous jump. Yeah, it was a good step. It was a 3-footer. So he's telling you it's a 3-foot turd. It's a 3-foot Apollo simulation project turd, which is the asp snake. So it's a 3-foot snake. It's a massive turd. It's a 3-foot putt for the Eagle. And why was it a 3-foot putt for the Eagle? Because there was no rocket launch, really. It was a 3-foot jump right to the moon in a studio with Stanley Kubrick. So it's a 3-footer. Here's clues into the saints. Like we have the boy and his dog in the St. John River. We have Matthew, Mark, and Luke crater, which let me show you those. So here we have Eva. Eva is Eve. Adam's probe, Eva. Matthew, Mark, and Luke crater. And of course we have Genesis is read on Christmas Eve on Apollo 8. And then Apollo 15, the mission that launches on Stanley's birthday, they find the Genesis rock, which contains crystals. And we have a crystal one here. It contains crystals that show twinning. You know, so we have a twin clue, we have a crystal clue. It's a multifaceted puzzle. And then crystal, if I just give you the word crystal and I ask you to make a word from it, a very common one will be crystal ball, because this map is a crystal ball of your future. And of course you have tennis elbow. So we're given Saturn and Jupiter. In Arthur C. Clarke's book, it's the planet Saturn. In Stanley Kubrick's movie, it's the planet Jupiter. So Jupiter's attributes are the eagle and lightning. So he has white lightning bolts. So Jupiter and Saturn are the first 2 protagonists in the Battle of the Titans. So Jupiter defeats Saturn with his mighty lightning bolts and his eagle. So we have the Saturn V rocket. We have Jupiter and Saturn in Arthur C. Clarke's book and Kubrick's movie. So, you know, after a while, when you see the repetition of these Greek gods and their attributes and their names and their sometimes they're, like we had up here, we had the Greek, where the hell is it now? We have the Greek Poseidonus, and then Woody Strode has Neptune's trident, which is the same thing. It's the same god. So we have both names of the same god, Poseidonus and Neptune, and the trident. Here's the trident. So once again, it's a Greek god, and it's his attribute. We come down here, and we're talking about Jupiter, slash Zeus. There's just two names. They're synonyms. One's Greek, one's Roman. Or Roman and Greek ping pong we're playing. So Zeus and his lightning and his eagle. And we have crescent-shaped slices we're chopping out of the orange. And crescent-shaped slices we're chopping out of the apple and the lime and the lemon and the crescent slice that Alan Shepard takes with his 6-iron on the moon. It was a slice. It's a dome. It's not a globe. It's a flat plane with a dome over it. How far the flat plane extends past this dome, I have no idea. Here we have a clue to flowers, and I have not gotten into this. If you really want your mind blown, start looking at the Hunger Games series. And two characters in that I'll mention right now, even though we're not going to go into Hunger Games because it would just dwarf this. But we have glimmer and gloss. So if you're shiny, you have Martin Sheen and Charlie Sheen. If you're shiny, you have glossy, gloss. If you're shiny, you have glimmer. So she's giving you the shiny, flat puzzle in the names of her own characters. And she uses plants, and she's very clever with what she does. So we're using polar opposites. So you have high and low, right? So you have high tide and low tide. 54 cards in a full deck. There's 2 jokers. If you only have 51 cards, you're a few cards short. So this is a clue to the crazy threads. And of course it's Area 51 and the Emergency 51 lunchbox with Randolph Mantooth. They're half firefighter, half doctor. Let's do something here. So you got last crater. So we're always looking for polar opposites. So if you have last, you have to have first. So who's the first man to the moon? Neil Armstrong. Who's the first man to the South Pole? Raoul Damascene. Who's the first man to drive across Antarctica in a Tucker snowcat? It would be Vivian Fuchs. So we're doing first and last. Who's the last man to the South Pole? That would be Robert Falcon Scott and his Discovery ship. So he doesn't give you both of the clues. He just gives you one of them. And there's enough of these that, you know. So if you have front, you have back. You have last, you have first. If you have the side, you have, I don't even know what this one would be. So distant would be near and distant. And they're chain links, they're pairs, they're doublets, they're triplets. Blinky, if you watch Kubrick in his famous interview, which I'll show in this video, he's blinking both his eyes when he's making his little alchemical points. So he gives you Blinky. And also Blinky's a clue to the clowns. Like all the Apollo astronauts are essentially clowns. And you got Slim Pickens was a rodeo clown, and he gives you an amusement park. Right, it's like riding a bumper car in an amusement park. There's always clowns in amusement parks. And of course, Disney World is an amusement park. All right, let's go to a new area. So we're given slices and axes and bladed instruments. So you have arrowhead. So arrowhead, part of this is head. Head is a category of the cone heads and what are you animals doing in my head, and the head is the bathroom. And you have the scene with the B-52, which is a subliminal fellatio scene. So the horse says, you know, sucky, fucky, anything you want. So we're given all kinds of different clues to head. You have the redhead bathroom in the Biltmore. And Apollo was a bowman. So this is a very fascinating one. We were given Wang in the Austin Powers movie. You'll get to see that as well in this video. And it's a slang name for your cock, your Johnson, your Wang. So we have OS crater, window crater, gateway crater, Wang crater, Mac Ready in the movie The Thing, and Windows in the movie The Thing. So these are all clues that you're going to need a computer, or you're going to want to use a computer to solve this puzzle. and you're making a very large flat file. You're putting all these things into a document, and then you're doing searches on for the repetition. Because when you first begin this puzzle, no matter how good your memory is, you can't remember this many things at the same time. And after you've done it for a while, you can do it. But in the beginning, you really need a computer to say, oh, geez, repeating this word 30 times, or, you know. Let's see what else we got here. Let's go. There's got to be more to this. Why am I not? Can I go down? Oh, here we go. Let's go up. So I think I've gotten to most of these. So these are not all. Oh, okay. Here's a good one. We have Lee Lincoln Crater. Lee Lincoln Scarp. Okay. So you have a category of Lees. You have Christopher Lee, Mr. Vampire. He does all the Hammer films. You have Lee Ermey. You have Jamie Lee. Actually, you know what? I don't want to bring up the whole. I'll put a list of all the Lees under here. You have who's the girl in? Oh God, what's her name? She's in Twin Peaks. She plays the homecoming queen. Cheryl Lee. So there's a category of Lees. It's extensive. And then we have a category of Lincolns. We have the Ford Mercury Lincoln. We have Lincoln was shot in a theater. We have the Lincoln Logs as a game for children, the Lincoln Log game. We have Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin. Kennedy is murdered in a Lincoln. Oswald is found in a theater. Lincoln is a theater. Kennedy is a theater. Apollo is a theater. You know, Barry Nelson has theater curtains and his impossible window in his office. So we're given a lot of clues to Lincoln. The Donners depart Lincoln, Missouri on April 15th, IRS tax day, Jackie Robinson Day, the day the Titanic sinks. So we have a Lee and a Lincoln on the map as well. We have a Luke crater, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It's a biblical reference. We have the Trident. So Woody Strode has Neptune / Poseidonus attribute in the movie Spartacus. So we have the crazy category already. We have 51, and you're a few cards short of a full deck. So you're weird. You're a weird crater. You're crazy. You're nutty. You're fruity. You're cuckoo. You're Looney Tunes. Your screws are loose. You're short of a few blue marbles. And then we have a triplet again. Triplet crater. Weird crater. Center. That's interesting. This is a good one. And once again, you probably can't even read it, but it's if you have the original map in its original form, it says Gutenberg. So Gutenberg, you know, these are clues into the printing press, offset printing. Index card. So you have the fallen astronaut card that's left on the moon. And you have the One-Eyed Jack card from the One-Eyed Jack movie. And you have Ace, the bomber pilot, the backup bomber pilot, who's Shane Rimmer in Dr. Strangelove. And you have Major King Kong and Jack Nicholson and Jack Kennedy. And you have Jamie Lee Curtis, Queen of Screams. You have Marie Windsor, Queen of B movies. You have Lucille Ball, Queen of the Bees. So there's all these cards clues mixed in this puzzle. So he gives you index card, and he gives you offset printing, and he gives you Gutenberg. He gives you the 0G ballpoint pen that's floating. And of course, NASA actually develops and invents the 0G ballpoint pen because they didn't want to use a pencil. So we have Wilbur and Orville crater. We have Kitty Hawk is the name of the Apollo CSM. So Kitty Hawk is a catbird. So Kubrick was in the catbird seat. So he gives us Wilbur and Orville, and they're first in flight. So again, it's another first. They're first in flight. So we know we're looking for the first day, whatever plane we're giving in the puzzle. Like the B-52 flies, the first day is April 15th, IRS tax day, Jackie Robinson Day, the day the Donners depart, the day Lincoln dies, the day the Titanic sinks. So it's a pair. They're first in flight. They take off from Kitty Hawk, a catbird seat. And, here's the clues into twins and also the twin towers, the North Twin and the South Twin. That's what the name of the buildings were, the North Twin and South Twin. So we get to see the North Twin and the South Twin for the first time. We see a model of these at the 1964 World's Fair. Of course, we see the Ford Mustang and the Ford Falcon for the first time there as well. We see the Unisphere there for the first time as well. We see all the Apollo hardware, the LEM, the CSM, the Saturn V, all the ICBM missiles, the Thor, the Atlas, the Titan for the first time there. So, and it ties into twins, you have the Twin Towers and Twin Peaks and yada, yada, yada. Apollo was a twin, Elvis was a twin, the Arbus twins, so I've done a whole video on the twins. It's ridiculous. We're looking for bipolar opposites, twins. The Burns twins, one's happy, one's sad. The Arbus twins, one's happy, one's sad. They're bipolar twins, like the North and South Poles. And so this is when I've been referring to, it's on the Apollo 15 map, or it's on the Apollo 12 map, or it's on the Apollo 11 map, or wherever. This is I've distilled all of these alchemical crater names from the IAU, International Astronomical Union, which, of course, Dr. Floyd is invited to go to the IAU meeting, but he doesn't know if he's going to be able to make it because of the holidays and the birthdays that he has to go to. So you get the massive turd pile, Buck Turgensen, the Mare. It's a horse shit. Here's a clue we're looking for alcohol. So you have Brandy Crater. You have the Jack Daniels, Old Number 7, founded by moonshiners. You have Hair of the Dog, Lloyd, Hair of the Dog, a song by Nazareth, the birthplace of Jesus. So that's how this puzzle worked. Domingo is Sunday. Sunday. We're looking for Danny is Jack's son, and we're looking for fathers and sons. And it's the going to the sun road is the Sidewinder. So I think that's the end of I'm covering there. I'm not saying these are all the alchemical craters Kubrick has hidden, but this is enough to give, a tortilla flat. This is a flat bread. So you have Catcher in the Rye bread. You have, it's like burnt toast, Danny. Sometimes it leaves a trace of itself behind. You have the bread knife. Wendy slices. Wendy slices Jack's hand with the bread knife. So tortilla flat is a flat bread. And you have 8-Ball calls Animal Mother. Yeah, whatever, white bread. So he's giving you breads and all kinds of clues to Catcher in the Rye. And of course, Catcher in the Rye, a catcher can be a baseball player. A catcher in the rye can be a bread. A rye can be a whiskey. You can have a fly catcher. So it's all in the interpretation of these alchemical words that he provides you. And so that's the Apollo maps. I'm gonna stop this right here and continue with the video.
Oh boy, what a view. I can see Pluton and Icarus.
And the man whose fame exceeded the most illustrious filmmakers of today spent the last 17 years of his life shunned by the film industry he had created. I've compared Griffith's career to the Icarus myth, but at the same time, I've never been certain whether the moral of the Icarus story should only be, as is generally accepted, don't try to fly too high, or whether it might also be thought of as forget the wax and feathers and do a better job on the wings.
Two hours after touchdown, Dave Scott stood up in Falcon's upper hatch to survey their landing area.
Oh boy, what a view. I can see Pluton and Icarus.
And by the way, this is called gravity. I get an amen. Woo!
Colonel, you better take a look at this radar.
What is it, son?
I don't know, sir. But it looks like a giant
Dick,
Yeah.
take a look out of starboard.
Oh my God, it looks like a huge...
Pecker!
Oh, yeah.
Wait, that's not a woodpecker. It looks like someone's...
Privates! We have reports of an unidentified flying object. It is a long, smooth shaft, complete with 2 balls. What is that? That looks just like an enormous...
So you've got all Kubrick's dick clues.
I was distracted by that enormous flying...
Willie. Yeah. What's that? Well, it looks like a giant...
Johnson. Yes, sir. Get on the horn to British intelligence and let them know about this.
Yeah, and you got Mini-Me, the clone, and Dr. Evil, big and little. So we're seeing polar opposites all the time. Salt and pepper, black and white, big and little. And we have all the Dicks, the Peters, the Johnsons, the Dicks, the mine shafts, the Adams probes, the Peters projection.
Looks like a huge... Penis! The male reproductive organ. Also known
They're
as
dick jokes is what they are.
or...
Wiener? Any of you kids want another wiener?
So this is why we see the little showerhead and the big showerhead. We're using humor
Great.
to hide in secret language, and it's so overt and ridiculous that it's, you know, no one looks for it. And it's being used in Kubrick's puzzle so many times, you know. How many do you need before you go, oh, okay.
Hey, what's that? It looks like a big...
Woody!
A one-eyed monster.
Woody Harrelson? Can I have your autograph?
Sure, no problem.
Oh, my Lord. Look at that thing.
So big.
So he's Woody Harrelson. Just a little prick, he says. So remember that, just a little prick. So there's the showerhead disappears.
Which one? It's the one that looks like a pair of...
Melons! Big, juicy melons!
Are they nice and
Big
firm?
juicy melons.
What do you think?
Just like Kubrick's melon memo.
It looks like a
And
set
no
of
watermelon and fried chicken. Jamie Lee's amazing pair.
Check it out. Those remind me of...
Boobs!
Boobs, Ozzy.
These filmmakers are just boobs.
What do you mean,
Black
Dad?
Sabbath.
Well, they're using the same joke as they did in the last Austin Powers movie.
What joke?
You know, joke about the long, smooth rocket that looks like some guy's...
Johnson. Yes,
So
sir.
you got
Any
Lyndon
sign of the
Johnson,
satellite?
Dick Nixon,
No, sir. It's gone.
the One-Eyed Jack, the Cyclops is one-eyed in the Odysseus myth. You've got the Alabama Black Snake.
Sao không chịu? Thôi chịu đại đi, có gì đâu ạ?
So it's a one-eyed
Something wrong there,
Alabama
Chief?
Black Snake.
She said, no bum bum with soul brother.
And what the motherfucker?
She said, soul brother, chupaku, chupaku.
And what is this, man?
I think what he's trying to tell you is that you black boys pack too much meat.
Chupaku, chupaku.
And there's another thing that comes up in this too.
This baby's hand look like she can suck the chrome off a trailer hitch.
It's right after this, it comes up and he says, oh, there's a batting order.
Excuse me, ma'am.
And it's a clue to
What we
eugenics
have
that there's
here
had to be a
is
batting
just
order,
a
and so animal mother, the white guy, goes
pure
first.
Alabama black snake, but ain't too goddamn buku.
Okay, okay. And you?
And they're in a theater, they're in front of a theater, of course, they're in theater seats. So one-eyed card player again. You know, we're doing the monolith, the one-eyed monster, the one-eyed computer, the one fish eye. Now we're going to go into a different category, bunnies again.
Well, anyway, he looks like a doc, doesn't he?
Yeah. What's up, Doc?
And here comes the Botsy twin. You're pretty agile there, Twinkle Toes.
Who said that? Who the fuck said that? Who's the slimy little communist shit twinkle toad cocksucker down here?
You're pretty agile there, Twinkle Toes.
Who just signed his own death warrant? Nobody, huh? The very fucking godmother said, I'm fucking standing. I will PT you all until you fucking die.
You're under arrest for violating
sections 4153 of the Tycho Treaty. The Tycho Treaty. The Tycho Treaty.
The Tycho
We're able to
Treaty.
see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics. I don't recall during the period of
This is
time
where Michael
that we
Collins
were
doesn't remember
seeing
seeing any stars.
what stars we could see.
I don't remember seeing any. I don't remember seeing any. I don't remember seeing any.
He was the navigator, by the way. So how in the F he navigated without seeing any stars? It's full of stars.
Since he is always standing on his
This is a broadcast from Apollo 11. And they're talking about the Jade Rabbit.
He looks like a doc, doesn't he?
Yeah. What's up, Doc?
The name of the rabbit is not reported. Okay, among the large headlines concerning Apollo this morning is one asking that you watch for a lovely girl with a big rabbit. An ancient legend says a beautiful Chinese girl called Chang'o has been living there for 4,000 years. It seems she was banished to the moon because she stole the pill of immortality from her husband. You might also look for her companion, a large Chinese rabbit, who is easy to spot since he is always standing on his hind feet in the shade of a cinnamon tree. The name of the rabbit.
The name of the rabbit is the Jade Rabbit. So it's the one-eyed Jade Rabbit. And this is our connection to the blue marble and the Jade Rabbit. So here you have Playboy models. These are the ones that are in The Shining.
Like a doc, doesn't he?
Danny's Doc wears the Bugs Bunny jersey. Anne Margaret is a Playboy bunny. You know, they put Playboy bunnies in the mission logs. So Buzz Aldrin says, we'll keep an eye out for the bunny girl. You know, the Philadelphia experiment ship, the Eldridge, was in Playboy.
That you watch for a lovely girl.
You got John Travolta, Johnny.
An ancient legend says a beautiful.
You got Farrah Fawcett married to Lee Majors. His character is based on Eugene Cernan, the $6 Million Man. So there's the Playgirl that we see Jack has in The Shining. So Playgirl, Playboy, we're doing Jackson Harris. So a Jack is Playboy and a Harris Playgirl, and vice versa. Sharon Tate was a Playboy bunny. Her mother's maiden name was Willett, like the whiskey. So I find that interesting that she's a Willett. I don't know if you know, it's kind of an upper end whiskey. It's not cheap. Of course, Nicole is a Playboy bunny, and Burt Reynolds is a Playboy bunny, and Scatman has in his room. He has two different Playboy bunnies on the wall, and they have ball hair. There's a Zizi Johari born the 236th day. In 1980, she was born on the 237th day. There's a one-eyed Jack. There's a one-eyed Bullseye. There's a one-eyed azimuthal equidistant map, the UN map, and the AE map. There we have half man, half bull, and later on it turns into the one-eyed Cyclops, man, bear, pig. You have the one-eyed card player, the one-eyed Jade Rabbit. You know, so this is the bunny girl and the Jade Rabbit. So the bunny girls were the Apollo Playboy mission logs, and the Jade Rabbit is the moon. And of course we have, you know, we have connections from the Jack Rabbit and the Harris into other movies. We have Jack Rabbit Slims in Pulp Fiction, so that's a direct connection to Jack Rabbit and Slim Pickens. And you have Danny, you know, he's Doc. He wears the Danny's got the Bugs Bunny jersey on, number 42.
Well, anyway, he looks like a doc, doesn't he?
Yeah. What's up, Doc?
And of course we have the Lewis Carroll connection to the mirroring, doubling, halving, palindromes. Follow the White Rabbit. Alright, this is a new category. Well, not a new one, but it's one I hadn't really covered before, so. This is Apollo 8 reads Genesis on Christmas Eve.
We're now going over approaching one of our future landing sites.
So that's where they eventually land on Apollo 11.
For the initial landing attempt in order to preclude having to dodge mountains. Now you can see the long shadows of the lunar sunrise.
So, you know, it's all the clues. I've listed them here of all the biblical clues that Kubrick gives you. And it's extensive.
Now approaching lunar sunrise, and for all the people back on Earth, the crew of Apollo 8 has a message that we would like to send
And here's
you.
their message.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters.
So this is Kubrick. You know, he's giving you Genesis, the first day.
And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and divided the light from the darkness.
So each one of them.
And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.
The firmament.
And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And from the crew of Apollo 8, we close with good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth.
So he's giving you, it's Christmas Eve, so it's Jesus' birthday. It's the first day, you know, so you got the birthday, you got the first day, you got the firmament amidst the waters.
Sir, yes, sir! Sir, yes, sir! As soon as you finish your bunks, I want you two turds to clean the head. Sir, aye, sir! I want that head so sanitary and squared away that the Virgin Mary herself
So
would
the
be proud
Virgin
to go in
Mary,
there
so you
and
had
take it
Jesus,
down.
now you get the Virgin Mary, you've got
Joker.
Christmas,
You believe in
the
the Virgin
birthday,
Mary?
Genesis, the first day.
Well, Private Joker, I don't believe I heard you correctly.
Sir, the private said no, sir, sir!
Well, you little maggot, you make me want to vomit! You goddamn communist heathen, you had best sound off that you love the Virgin Mary, or I'm gonna stomp your guts out. Now, you do love the Virgin Mary, don't you?
Sir, negative, sir!
Private Joker, are you trying to offend me?
Sir, negative, sir!
So we have Adam and Eve, they're polar opposites, one's male, one's female, the first man and the first woman. Genesis is the first day. They find the Genesis rock on Apollo 15, the mission that launches on Stanley's birthday, the day Diane Arbus dies. Let there be light. We must supply our own light. And of course we have the redheads, so that represents Lilith. Christmas is celebrated during Eyes Wide Shut, the only time we see it in any of his movies. And it's Jesus' birthday. Of course, we have Matthew, Mark, and Luke craters on Apollo 15, all references to the Bible. The firmament.
Looked like just another rock. To the untrained eye, it looked like just another rock. But its large crystals, formed in pairs called crinums, showed it to be a section of primal lunar crust, formed during the earliest history of the solar system, not obliterated by billions of years of impacts and lava flows. It was a key to many mysteries. Was the early lunar crust molten? Why differences in color and density between the highlands and lowlands? Nicknamed the Genesis Rock, It stands as a major clue in unraveling the formative processes of the moon, the earth, and the planets.
Just like Joker.
Nicknamed the Genesis
He's
Rock.
nicknamed the Joker.
Let me please you. I'm a woman as real and as human as you are. We're like Adam and Eve. We're like Adam and Eve.
That was cut out of the menagerie. So, you know, how overt can you get? He's giving you happy birthday, dear Jesus.
Today is Christmas. There will be a magic show at 0930. Chaplain Charlie
Magic is a category.
will tell you about how the free world will conquer communism with the aid of God and a few Marines. God has a hard-on for Marines because we kill everything we see. He plays his games, we play ours. To show our appreciation for so much power, we keep heaven packed with fresh souls. God was here before the Marine Corps, so you can give your heart to Jesus, but your ass belongs to the Corps. Do you ladies understand? Sir, yes, sir. I can't hear you. Sir, yes, sir.
So, I mean, how many biblical references? So here we have Matthew, Mark, and Luke Crater. And Eva, extravehicular activity is Eva. We have lightning crater. So you have red lightning, the horse, and Jupiter's lightning, and Lightning Joe Collins. And then we have you have last crater. So we're always doing polar opposites. So you're going to have first and last. So even though he gives you just last, you know you're looking for first and last. And you have 54 cards in a full deck. 51 crater, you're short. You've got Ptolemy. You've got the Ranger. So you get the Lone Ranger, the Ranger Station. Surveyors are flat Earth people. They know it's flat. They measured it. Triplet crater. Descartes, length, width, and height. Mare. The dome. I mean, how overt can you get? There's a dome. You live on the plain, and there's a dome. Tortilla flat is a flatbread. So you had slices of bread. It's like burnt toast, Danny. Sometimes it leaves a trace of itself behind. The rye bread. Whatever white bread from Animal Mother. You've got triplet crater. So you have doublets and triplets from Lewis Carroll. Kimball is Dr. Kimball, the one-arm, searching for the one-armed man in The Fugitive. You've got the Terrace, Colombo. So there, how did I get Peter Falk? From Colombo. Copernicus crater. I mean, how overt can you get? It's the Copernican model. Henry crater. So you've got Hank Aaron, or I'm sorry, Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron. You've got Lonely Hearts Club Band, Lonely Crater. Domingo is Sunday. So you got Saturday and Sunday. So this is a new one I found, and it's really good because it ties into the puzzle that we've learned so far. And it's a little story, and it's from Jerry Lewis. And it says, I don't even know if you're going to be able to read this in the video, so I'll read it. It says, I was in my cutting room around 1 a.m. in the 1 in the morning, and he strolls in smoking a cigarette and says, "Can I watch?" I said, "Yeah, you can watch. You want to see a Jew go down? Stand there." That was the night I coined the expression, "You cannot polish a turd." And then Kubrick looked at me and he said, "You can if you freeze it." So Kubrick is telling Jerry Lewis, who's editing a film, you know, Jerry's having a hard time editing this film, and he says you can't polish a turd. And then Kubrick looks at him and he tells him, "You can if you freeze it." So why this is poignant is because essentially what's happened is the fake moon missions have been frozen. People thought they were legitimate for years and years and years and years and years, and now it's becoming apparent that they weren't legitimate, and they're starting to look at them without the rose-colored glasses on. So it's like a huge turd that's slowly thawing. Little parts fall off here and there, and every few months there's another revelation on something that doesn't fit or it's wrong or whatever. So this is going to be the end of this video because it's gotten too long already, but I just want to mention before I end it that we're talking about Jerry Lewis here, and there's already a huge threat of eugenics. So the next video I'm going to do is going to be all on Kubrick's eugenics clues, and clearly one of these clues is Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis was a spokesperson for muscular dystrophy. So MD is also a abbreviation for doctor, and the puzzle is also filled with doctors. So you have muscular dystrophy, Jerry Lewis. You have Lewis Carroll is already in the puzzle, and there's a category of Jerrys, and hang on, I made a list of them yesterday. I started making a list of them. Jerry Hall, Jerry Lewis, Tom and Jerry, a cartoon, Jerome David Salinger, Jerry Ford, Jerry Springer, which is seen in Austin Powers. Let's see here. Jerry Bruckheimer. Jerry Reed, he's in Smokey and the Bandit. And there's a lot of other ones. I'm not going to even say them because I can't really even come close to connecting them, but I suspect they're in it. So we have a category of Jerrys now. So you have Tom's, which is a male cat, and now you have Jerry, and you have Lewis Carroll. And we have muscular dystrophy now, and we have Kubrick telling him you can polish a turd if you freeze it. So Kubrick was able to polish the Apollo turd in 1969. It was freshly polished. But as the years go by and it starts to thaw out, it's not going to be able to hold its shape. And that's the end of this video. And it was really, it's amazing. Every day now, it seems like there's people, another subscriber, and it's awesome. And like I said before, we had a new graduate, new boot camp graduate, private. And that's it, guys. Have a great night.